This is cs952 Introduction to Web Technologies and Design, and in our last video we had changed the appearance of our navigation bar. Now we'd like to work a little bit with the footer on our website. So the footer, this is, let me go back to my document object model, my DOM panel. Let me close that up. We're in the body of our website. We've worked with our navigation, we changed the color there. We haven't done anything yet on this section. So the footer, this is what we want to be working with. And so far we've been in live view. We've also been working with split view. When we have the split button on, basically we get to see what the web page looks like and the code for the web page at the same time. If I just click over here on live, the only thing we're seeing is actually the web page itself. If I click on code, then we would only be seeing the code for the web page. And split gives us a split view. There's another view in Dreamweaver that we haven't looked at, and we're not going to be using a whole lot. This used to be the primary view in Dreamweaver, and it's called Design View. So let's select Design View. Now Design View is probably about 5 or 7 years out of date. Design View is before really we got into HTML5 and all the what you could do with CSS3, and it represents an earlier version of the web. Why do we still have Design View? Well, we still have Design View because there's certain kinds of editing that you can only do in Design View that are just about impossible to do in Live View. And one reason for that is, consider that when you're in Live View, it's as if the page is actually working. So, you know, when you're on a website and you click on a link, it takes you to another page. Or if you're looking at a movie, the movie plays. Well, if you're trying to design a link, or if you're trying to design how a certain element on the page looks, you may not want it to actually be running. So sometimes working in Live View is a bit like trying to paint a moving target. It's just about impossible. So for this reason, Design View is still around. I imagine one day it might go away if the folks at Adobe come up with a way to enable you to do all the editing that you need in Live View. But for the time being, we're going to switch to Design View. And I'm going to click on the text that I have down here in my footer, and it says content for new footer tag goes here. Well, I'm going to replace that with these words, copyright, C-O-P-Y-R-I-G-H-T, and then I'm going to put in my name. And you can put in your name here. You should not put in my name. Copyright student name is what I have in my notes. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to add that copyright symbol after the word copyright and before the word Wayne Jones, and that is an HTML element. So what we're going to do is under our menu we're going to choose Insert, and then we're going to scroll down and choose HTML, and this is going to be hard for you to see. I think I may have to do a screen snapshot of this and edit this in later. But once you've gone to HTML, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there is a menu, a breakout menu item called Character. And when you can choose from that one, you can choose copyright. And you want to click on that. And when I do that, you can see it adds in the little copyright symbol. And I'm going to add in a space. Okay. If I go to split view, I can see that actually what it added in is the ampersand sign, C-O-P-Y, semicolon. So if you didn't want to use the Dreamweaver interface to go through the different menus and you just wanted to straight out add in a copyright sign, you can go to code view, to the split view, and type ampersand C-O-P-Y, and you can look, Dreamweaver's already filling it in for you right there. I can just double click on that, ampersand C-O-P-Y copy, and there you have it. Okay, so now I've got copyright. What I'd like to do next, and Dreamweaver's asking, do you want to refresh? Because it knows that we made changes to code view, so we'll click on refresh. What I would like to do is I would like my footer, I would like this text to be centered. And Dreamweaver is able to access the CSS styles that come to us from Bootstrap, right? Because we're building this off the Bootstrap framework, and Bootstrap has an existing class called Text Center, and anything that's a member of that class, the text is going to be centered. So how do I add that to my website? How do I change it so that that works on my footer? I'm going to switch back to live view. And I'm going to click on my footer here in my DOM panel. And there's a couple different ways to do it. There's always a couple different ways to do just about anything in Dreamweaver. With my footer selected in my document DOM panel, you can see in the Properties Inspector it says under Footer ID it has no ID, and then under Class it has no class. If I click the little drop-down menu for Class, I'm going to see all these classes. Now these classes, they're not HTML classes. They don't come to us from regular web code. These all come to us because we're using Bootstrap. And if I scroll down, I'm going to see an item that says Text Center. And in fact, when they show it to us, the text is centered. So if I click on that, there we have it. The text is centered. So the text is centered, and I did that by applying the class to the Property Inspector. Notice over here, on the left-hand side, it says Footer, and there's a little dot text center. I'll show you another way that we could do the exact same thing. Let's remove this class from my footer. Now, if I have the footer selected, and you can see we have this little tag editor right here. If I hover over the little plus, it says Add Class or ID. If I click on that plus and then start to type, if I start to type a period, then Dreamweaver knows I must be adding a class, because remember, classes start with a period. If I start to fill in the text, TEXT, then Dreamweaver fills in all the possible classes that begin with text. So this is kind of handy. Then I can just kind of scroll through and find the one that I'm looking for, which is going to be Text Center, right? Or I can type in text-C, and there it is, Text Center. Two different ways to do the same thing. So now I've taken advantage of an existing Bootstrap class to center my text. I'm going to go ahead and hit Save All. So we learned how to start off with a basic empty web page, add in Bootstrap, take advantage of the Bootstrap CSS. We added in an element on our web page, and we said let's give it that Bootstrap class of text center. It's automatically going to center the text for us. We added in our navigation CSS file that changed the color of our navigation. So let's kind of take the process one further, and let's create a new CSS file from scratch with nothing in it at all, and we're going to use this to store all of the custom styles that we're going to create for our website. And we do this real similar to what we did just a little while ago. We're going to go to our CSS designer. We're going to click on the plus sign next to sources. We're going to create a new CSS file. I'm going to go to Browse because I want to make sure that I save it inside of my CSS folder. And I'm going to call this Styles, S-T-Y-L-E-S, and I'm going to hit Save. And again, I need to hit OK one more time. And again, notice in Dreamweaver we've got a little asterisk next to dev.html. That means we have unsaved changes. And then we've got a new, in our related files menu bar, we've got a new file called styles.css, because that's another file that we're adding to our website. Notice how we're also keeping our CSS rules in different places. So we've got the Bootstrap, which is the basic CSS for the site. We've got a navigation file, which is all the colors we want for our navigation. We're creating a new file called styles.css, and this is a really nice way to work, so you can kind of keep your different styles organized and separated out. It's going to make it easier if you want to use the same styles over and over again. It's one of the advantages of working with CSS. So I've got my file here, styles.css. What I want to do is I want to add some padding to my footer, because right now my footer kind of looks unexciting. It's just sitting there with copyright Wayne Jones in it. So how do I add some padding to my footer? Well, we're going to pick this up in the next video. We're actually going to learn how to do some styling. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and hit Save All, and then we'll get started in our next video.